the silent, eerie halls of African boarding schools, a chilling presence is said to roam the dark corridors, her steps echoing like a sinister heartbeat. She is Madame Koi Koi, the ghostly figure of a woman whose haunting legend strikes fear into the hearts of students across the continent. The story goes that Madame Koi Koi was once a beautiful teacher, known for her elegance and her striking red high heels, but beneath her poised exterior lay a dark and vengeful soul. According to the legend, she was cruel to her students, punishing them mercilessly for even the smallest mistakes. One fateful day, her harshness led to a confrontation with students or staff, and the encounter ended in tragedy. Some say she was pushed to her death, her red heels clattering down the stairs as her screams faded into silence. But death did not silence Madame Koi Koi. Her restless spirit lingers, haunting the places where she once walked. At night, students claim to hear the unmistakable click-clack of her red heels echoing through empty dormitory halls or school bathrooms. The sound grows louder, closer, as if she's hunting for those who dare remain awake or wander alone. Day schools are not spared from her wrath. Madame Koi Koi is said to haunt students who arrive too early or linger too late, her ghostly figure appearing in toilets or empty classrooms, her one remaining red heel glinting ominously in the dim light. Her vengeance is swift and silent. Some students claim to have felt her icy grip, while others report the sight of her disfigured face, her expression twisted with rage and sorrow. No one knows what she truly seeks: revenge, redemption, or simply a victim to share her eternal torment. To this day, students whisper warnings: never walk the halls alone at night, and if you hear the haunting click-clack of Madame Koi Koi's heels, run, for she is always watching, always waiting. The legend of the hook is one of the most chilling tales passed down from generation to generation, a nightmare born from the darkest corners of America. It begins as many terrifying stories do, with a teenage couple parked in the isolation of a lover's lane, the night quiet and peaceful, their only company the stars above. But in the darkness, a sinister figure lurks, a deranged murderer with a hook in place of a hand, stalking the unsuspecting victims from the shadows. It is said that the killer, known only as the Hook or Hookman, escaped from a nearby mental asylum, his mind shattered by years of torment and isolation. He had fashioned a deadly prosthesis for his missing hand, a sharp, glistening hook that could tear through flesh and bone with brutal efficiency. For months, he roamed the surrounding area, waiting for the perfect opportunity to strike. The teenage couple, lost in their own world, would hear nothing at first, just the soft rustle of trees and the occasional creak of the car. But then, a sound, a scraping, dragging noise that sent chills through their spines. The boy, too preoccupied with the girl, would brush it off as nothing more than the wind. But then came the warning, a frantic radio report about an escaped convict, and then the scream. When the couple finally drove off in a panic, they discovered that their car door had been slashed open, and a blood-streaked hook was left dangling from the handle. In the rearview mirror, they could still see the figure of the hook watching us that there are horrors hidden in the dark, waiting just out of sight. And sometimes, when the night is too quiet and the wind too still, you might hear the scrape of metal against metal. We dive into the eerie legend of the Chonchon, a mythical creature that haunts the night skies. Let its chilling tale lull you into a peaceful sleep, if you dare. Deep in the shadowy forests of Chile and southern Argentina, an ancient terror lurks in the night. Whispered in hushed tones among villagers, the Chonchon is no ordinary creature. Its very existence defies nature, sending shivers down the spines of those who dare speak its name. Legend has it that the Chonchon is not a bird, but a cursed being, a sorcerer who has performed a dark ritual to transform into this horrifying creature. In the dead of night, the sorcerer's head detaches from its body, sprouting enormous wings from the ears. Blood-curdling cries, like the screams of 1,000 tormented souls, signal its arrival. The sound, known as tutu, chills the air, forewarning death for anyone who hears it. They say the Chonchon soars through the night skies in search of prey, gliding silently above the rooftops of unsuspecting villages. Those unfortunate enough to cross its path rarely live to tell the tale. It is said that the Chonchon can slip into homes undetected, like a whisper on the wind, draining the life force of its victims, leaving them pale and hollow by dawn. Those who survive its attack are left forever haunted, their minds shattered by the encounter. Many have tried to catch a glimpse of the Chonchon, but only a few ever return from their hunts, and those who do are never the same again. Their descriptions are fragmented, as though the horror of what they witnessed burned itself into their minds. The Chonchon's eyes, they say, are glowing red orbs, filled with a malevolent intelligence far older than time. Its wings beat with unnatural silence, a deadly predator slipping through the night like a phantom. It is said that only the most skilled of shamans can undo the curse of the Chonchon. But these rituals are dangerous, and failure means the sorcerer's twisted form will be free to wreak havoc for eternity. To this day, villagers lock their doors and windows tight when they hear the faintest whisper of the Chonchon's cry. The wind, though invisible, might carry death with it, for the Chonchon does not rest. It hungers, always searching for its next victim, always lurking in the darkness, just out of sight. So, beware the stillness of the night, for you may never know if the next faint flap of wings you hear belongs to the Chonchon, until it's too late. In the shadowy realm of Latin American folklore, a sinister whisper of the cuckoo stirs unease during the darkest hours. Known as the malevolent counterpart to the benign boogeyman of other cultures, the cuckoo is a creature of nightmares, thriving on the fears of both the young and old. This ghostly monster is no mere invention to coax children into obedience, but a terrifying spectre believed to lurk in the shadows of the night, waiting to snatch away those who dare defy the veil of night stillness. The legend of the cuckoo has been passed down through generations, a chilling narrative that varies varies slightly from region to region, but maintains its core essence. The kukui is a shapeless, shadowy figure, often depicted as a small, hunched being with glowing red eyes that peers through the darkness. It hides in closets, under beds, or in the dense foliage near homes, emerging only when the moon is but a faint glow against the black sky. Parents whisper tales of the kukui to their children, warning them not to wander alone at night. The kukui, they say, preys on the disobedient and the curious, those children who refuse to sleep when the night deepens, or who venture outside to explore the seductive mysteries of the dark. It is said that once the kukui sets its sights on you, escape is nearly impossible. Its presence is always cloaked in the rustling of leaves, or the soft creaks of a settling house, its breath a cold gust foretelling doom. Elders in the community speak of their own fearful encounters, of nights filled with inexplicable cold draughts and fleeting shadows seen from the corners of their eyes. They recount stories of friends long gone, spirited away by the kukui, leaving behind nothing but a chilling silence and an unspoken warning to heed the boundaries set by the light. Some tales take a more gruesome turn, describing how the kukui feeds on fear, drawing closer with each terrified heartbeat. The more you fear, the stronger it becomes. Its whisper, a sound like the dragging of chains in the depths of the unseen. Those who listen closely on windy nights might still hear the faint cries of its victims, a permanent echo of their eternal torment. To confront the kukui is to face an ancient and relentless evil, a reminder of the dark corners of the world where old spirits refuse to be forgotten. It is a creature born from the darkness of the human psyche, a manifestation of the terror of the unknown and the unseen. In the lore of Latin America, the kukui remains a potent symbol of the night's darkest reach, a spectre forever waiting in the shadowy fringes of fear. In the dark forest surrounding Rhinelander, Wisconsin, there exists a creature so fearsome and unnatural that even the bravest souls hesitate to speak of it. Known as the hodag, this terrifying beast is said to be born of fire and torment, a creature born from the very ashes of suffering. Its legend, rooted in the town's grim past, has lived on in whispers, passed down from one generation to the next. The hodag is described as a hulking, bull-like carnivore, with massive horns jutting from its head, and a row of thick, jagged spines running down its back. Its eyes burn with a feral hunger, glowing with a vicious intelligence that sends chills down the spine of anyone unlucky enough to encounter it. The creature's claws are said to be as sharp as razors, and its teeth, long, curved and pointed, are capable of tearing through flesh with ease. But it is not just its fearsome appearance that makes it so terrifying. It is the dark story of its creation. The legend says that the hodag was born from the ashes of cremated oxen, a horrific consequence of the abuse these animals suffered at the hands of their masters in Rhinelander. In the early days of the town, oxen were used for heavy labour, often treated with brutal cruelty. The animals were pushed beyond their limits, worked to the point of exhaustion, beaten and starved until they could endure no more. It is said that when these oxen were finally put to rest, their suffering did not end. Instead, their accumulated pain and rage gave birth to something dark and unnatural, a creature made of their collective torment. One fateful night, after a particularly brutal winter, a large fire raged through Rhinelander. It was said to have started in a nearby barn where the remains of abused oxen were burned. As the flames consumed the carcasses, something strange happened. something that could not be explained. From the heat and smoke, the hodag emerged, a twisted, vengeful incarnation of all the suffering and misery these animals had endured. Its very existence was an embodiment of rage, a creature that would stop at nothing to wreak havoc upon those responsible for the pain it was born from. As the hodag wandered the forest surrounding Rhinelander, it became a terror that haunted the local people. They spoke of its eerie, guttural growl echoing through the trees, a sound that would freeze anyone who heard it in their tracks. Some claimed to have seen the beast, its massive horns gleaming in the moonlight, its spine arched in an unnatural curve, ready to pounce. Those who ventured too deep into the woods would often never return, their screams lost to the wind, leaving only the faintest trace of blood behind. The townsfolk tried everything they could to rid themselves of the hodag. Hunters with rifles and traps ventured into the woods, but no one could ever seem to capture it. The beast would always slip away, vanishing into the forest as quickly as it had appeared, leaving behind only fear and unease. As time went on, the hodag became more than just a story. It became a symbol of the town's dark past, a reminder of the cruelty that had birthed it. Today, many in Rhinelander still speak of the creature in hushed tones. Some say the hodag still roams the forests, its bloodlust unsatisfied, waiting for the next unfortunate soul to cross its path. Others believe it is just a legend, a tale spun from the fear and guilt of a town haunted by its own history. But one thing remains certain. In the dense woods of Rhinelander, under the shadow of the trees, there are whispers of something lurking, something waiting, and if you listen closely, you might hear the growl of the hodag, a sound that will freeze your blood and leave you wondering if the legend is truly just that, or something far more sinister. Tonight, let me guide you into the shadows of ancient Spain, where the chilling legend of the Castilian lisp unfolds. Relax, close your eyes, and let the whispers of history lull you to sleep. In the dark corners of Spain's forgotten history, a chilling tale has lingered for centuries, whispered among locals and passed down from generation to generation. Is the legend of the Castilian lisp, a haunting story that, while discredited by scholars, continues to send shivers down the spines of those who hear it. Long ago, in a time when kings ruled with an iron fist and the boundaries between myth and reality were blurred, there was a king unlike any other. His name has been lost to the shadows of time, but his affliction, an unmistakable lisp, would echo across Spain, leaving a trail of fear and confusion in its wake. The king's speech was strange, almost inhuman, as though something had cursed his very words. His voice carried an eerie sibilance, a sound that cut through the air like the hiss of a snake. The court, terrified of the king's wrath, dared not speak of his speech defect, but whispers of dark magic and ancient curses spread beyond the castle walls, infecting the imagination of the populace. It was said that the king's lisp was no mere quirk of speech, but the result of a sinister pact made with forces beyond this world. Some claimed he had bargained with a demon for power, and in return his tongue was twisted, forcing him to speak in a way that no one else could. Others believed that a vengeful witch had cursed him, condemning his voice to forever sound as though it were tethered to the underworld. As the legend goes, the king was a man of great influence, and no one dared to correct his speech. Instead, out of fear, the courtiers and nobles began to mimic the king's pronunciation. His strange lisp spread like a disease, infecting the tongues of those who sought to curry favour with the crown. Soon, it was said, the entire kingdom spoke as their king did, their voices carrying the cursed sound of the theatre. The streets echoed with the eerie lisp, a constant reminder of the dark secret lurking in Spain's past. Children grew up speaking the language of the damned, unaware of the malevolent forces that had shaped their words. Though historians have debunked this tale as pure fantasy, the legend persists, a chilling reminder of how even the most benign of sounds can carry with them the weight of a curse. The next time you hear the soft hiss of a theatre in Spanish speech, remember the tale of the cursed king and wonder what dark power still lingers behind the sound. The Ohio River, winding its way through the city of Evansville, Indiana, has long been a place of mystery, a dark, undisturbed stretch of water where shadows move beneath the surface and secrets linger in its depths. But none of the stories are as chilling as the tale of the green-clawed beast, a horrifying creature that has stalked the riverbank since August 14th, 1955. It was on that summer night that the first terrifying encounter occurred. A young woman, swimming in the warm, murky waters of the Ohio River, was caught off guard by something she could not explain. As she paddled through the water, she felt a sudden, sharp pain, something gripping her leg, pulling her down into the dark depths. Panic surged through her chest as she struggled to break free, only to be dragged further under. Desperate, she reached down, only to feel the cold, rough texture of claws, green, like algae-coated talons, digging into her flesh. With one final, frantic pull, she wrenched herself free and surfaced, gasping for air, but the creature did not follow. Terrified, she fled to the shore, her leg marred by deep gashes that seemed to burn with an unnatural heat. She told her story to anyone who would listen, but no one believed her. At least not at first. It was only after other women began to report similar attacks that the legend of the green-clawed beast began to take shape. Women swimming in the Ohio River, or even simply wading in the shallows, were pulled under by invisible hands, their bodies scratched and bruised by the monster's powerful claws. The creature seemed to appear from nowhere, dragging its victims into the depths before retreating back to the darkness of the river. The green-clawed beast is said to be humanoid in shape, with long, sinewy arms and terrifyingly sharp green claws that glow faintly in the dim light of the river. Its skin is said to be slick and scaly, like that of some ancient amphibian, its eyes glowing with an unnatural hunger. Some say it is a creature of the river, born from the depths of the earth, awakened by the pollution and decay of the water. Others whisper that it is something far older, an ancient terror, long forgotten but never truly gone, that has always lurked beneath the surface, waiting for the right moment to strike. The attacks continue to haunt the town to this day, with local legends speaking of the creature's periodic return, drawn by the scent of fresh blood or the call of an unsuspecting swimmer. Though the authorities have always dismissed the stories as nothing more than urban legends, the scars on the victims' legs and the eerie tales from those who survived tell a far darker story. And so, the green-clawed beast of the Ohio River lingers in the hearts of the people of Evansville, a nightmare that is never too far from the surface, waiting for the next unwitting soul to dip their toes too deep into its domain. If you ever find yourself on the riverbanks after dark, remember this: you might feel follows the last of the light, you'll hear the unmistakable scrape of claws against flesh. The desert stretched out, a desolate expanse of sand and rock baking under the merciless Arizona sun. A legend whispers through the canyons, a tale of reckless ambition and fiery demise. The JATO rocket car, a Darwin Award winner, they say, a testament to the lethal combination of human ingenuity and sheer stupidity. The story goes like this. A man driven by a thirst for speed strapped a pair of JATO units designed to launch heavy aircraft into the sky onto the back of his unsuspecting car. He envisioned soaring across the desert floor, a blur of metal and fire, leaving all earthly limitations in his dust. He didn't account for the sheer, unbridled power he had unleashed. The desert highway became his launch pad, the asphalt shimmering in the midday heat. With a deafening roar, the JATO units ignited, propelling the car forward with terrifying force. Witnesses, they say, watched in disbelief as the vehicle accelerated beyond control, a metal beast unleashed from its earthly constraints. The driver, caught in the grip of forces beyond his comprehension, became a passenger in his own demise. The car, a screaming projectile, hurtled towards the horizon, a fleeting streak against the vast backdrop of the desert. Then the inevitable. A distant plume of smoke, a fiery eruption against the clear blue sky. The JATO rocket car, they say, met its end embedded deep within the side of a mountain, a twisted, mangled wreck, a monument to the folly of man. No official reports exist, no police records document such a fiery demise. The Arizona Department of Public Safety, weary of the persistent whispers, even issued a press release debunking the legend. Mythbusters, the champions of scientific truth, subjected the tale to rigorous testing, proving its impossibility. Yet, the legend persists, a morbidly fascinating tale whispered around campfires, a chilling reminder of the seductive allure of speed and the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition. And then, years later, a hiker exploring the remote canyons stumbled upon a strange anomaly, a scorched patch of earth high on the side of a cliff, a patch of earth littered with tiny melted fragments of metal, unlike anything found in nature. What do you think? In the eerie world of haunted relics, few objects instill as much dread as the Dybbuk box, a small, unassuming wine cabinet steeped in sinister legend. Originating from Jewish folklore, a Dybbuk is a restless, malicious spirit believed to cling to objects or people, feeding off their misery and fear. The Dybbuk box is said to contain just such a spirit, bound within its wooden walls, waiting for the next unfortunate soul to open it. The box first gained infamy when it surfaced in an online auction, accompanied by the chilling story of its previous owner, who claimed his life was plagued with misfortunes and nightmarish experiences after acquiring it. According to the tale, the box was originally bought by a young man at an estate sale. When he opened it, he found strange items inside: locks of hair, a small goblet, a candlestick, and engraved Hebrew inscriptions. But it wasn't the items inside that terrified him. It was what followed. From the moment the box entered his home, strange occurrences began. Foul odours of decaying flowers and ammonia filled the air. Shadowy figures appeared in his periphery, and the eerie sound of faint whispers echoed through the night. Soon he began having violent, unexplainable nightmares of an old, hateful woman lurking at the edge of his bed, her eyes burning with malice. Each morning he woke up feeling drained, as if the spirit had sapped One owner even suffered a sudden stroke shortly after acquiring it, convinced that the spirit trapped within the box had cursed him. Eventually, the Dybbuk box was sealed away, kept hidden from curious eyes, locked behind glass to prevent anyone from releasing the evil within. It has since become a relic of fear, a cursed object housed with great caution. Paranormal researchers who dare to approach it claim to feel an intense pressure, as if the air around it is vibrating with a dark, pulsating energy, ready to burst forth at the slightest touch. Today, the Dybbuk box stands as a chilling reminder of forces beyond our understanding. Many believe that the box should remain sealed, for to open it is to invite disaster. The warnings are clear. Disturb the Dybbuk box, and you may awaken something ancient, vengeful, and impossible to escape. A spirit that seeks not just to haunt, but to possess and torment anyone who crosses its path. The biting wind whipped across the desolate expanse of Ilkley Moor, a desolate landscape shrouded in an eerie silence. December 1st, 1987, a date etched in the annals of the unexplained, a chilling testament to an encounter that defies rational explanation. Retired police officer Philip Spencer ventured onto the moor that morning, his camera in hand, hoping to capture the stark beauty of the Yorkshire landscape. He would capture something far more extraordinary, something that would haunt him for the rest of his days. As Spencer walked, a strange unease settled over him, a prickling sensation at the back of his neck. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy. A low hum vibrated through the ground, a sound that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself. And then he saw it. A craft of impossible design, hovering silently above the moor, its metallic surface gleaming in the pale morning light. It was unlike anything he had ever seen, a shape that defied earthly engineering. Terror seized him, a primal fear that gripped his heart and froze his blood. He raised his camera, his hands trembling, and snapped a series of photographs, each click of the shutter a desperate attempt to document the impossible. The craft remained motionless, its silent presence radiating an otherworldly aura. Spencer, paralysed by fear, could only watch as a figure emerged from the craft, a being unlike any human he had ever encountered. Tall and slender, with skin the colour of polished silver, the figure moved with an unnatural grace. Its eyes, large and black, seemed to pierce through him, reading his very thoughts. A wave of nausea washed over him, a dizzying sensation that threatened to overwhelm him. He stumbled backward, his camera falling to the ground, the click of the shutter replaced by the frantic beat of his own heart. The figure glided towards him, its movements silent and fluid. Spencer wanted to scream, to run, but his body refused to obey. He was trapped, frozen in place by an unseen force. The being approached, its black eyes fixed on him, and then it spoke. A voice, not heard with the ears, but felt deep within his mind. A voice that resonated with an ancient power. The voice spoke of things beyond human comprehension, of dimensions unseen, of realities beyond the veil of our perception. Relax and unwind as we delve into the eerie tale of the Buckley family, an urban legend shrouded in mystery. Let the chilling story guide you gently into a deep, peaceful sleep. The Buckley family urban legend revolves around a chilling photo of two children who reportedly murdered their mother on Halloween night. The story begins with the discovery of an old, grainy black and white photo found in an abandoned house, showing a young boy and girl standing side by side. At first glance, the picture seems innocent, but upon closer inspection, there's something unnerving about the children's blank expressions. The story behind the photo is far more sinister. According to legend, the Buckley family lived in a quiet neighbourhood in the 1950s. On Halloween, the two Buckley children, who were around 10 and 12 years old, brutally murdered their mother in cold blood. They supposedly planned the murder for weeks, waiting for the perfect night when no one would suspect their horrific intentions. Some versions of the tale say the children wore Halloween costumes to hide their identities, making it harder for the neighbours to realise the terrible act they had committed. After killing their mother, the children left her body in the house and calmly walked outside as if nothing had happened. When the authorities arrived, the children were found sitting on the porch, eerily silent, still wearing their costumes, their hands stained with blood. The photograph that surfaced after the incident is said to have been taken moments before or after the murder, capturing the children in their eerie calmness. Some believe the image was discovered by the police as part of their investigation, while others say it was found years later in the abandoned Buckley house, where the children had been left to live after the tragedy. The whereabouts of the children after the murder remain unknown, adding to the mystery and fear surrounding the story. Over time, the Buckley family legend became a popular urban myth, with various retellings on online forums and in ghost story circles. The photograph itself has become a symbol of fear, said to be cursed. Anyone who gazes at it too long or too often experiences terrible nightmares, or even worse, finds themselves drawn into the same darkness that consumed the Buckley children. The Buckley family tale continues to be passed down as a reminder of the horrors that can lurk behind seemingly innocent faces, forever leaving a haunting impression on those who hear it. In the magical world of The Wizard of Oz, there is a dark and twisted legend that has haunted the film for decades. It's a tale of a shadowed figure seen briefly in the background that has sent chills down the spines of those who claim to have seen it. This is the story of the Hanging Munchkin, a haunting image that some believe shows an actor who tragically took his own life during the filming of the movie. The scene in question occurs as Dorothy, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion make their way through the yellow brick road, and in the background, just for a fleeting moment, a shadowy figure appears hanging from a rope in the distance. The figure appears to be a small, humanoid shape, one of the Munchkins, but instead of standing or moving, it sways ominously, as though suspended in mid-air. The unsettling image has long been thought to show a Munchkin actor who, in a moment of despair, ended his life while filming. Rumours spread quickly after the film's release. Some claimed it was a tragic accident. Others swore that the figure was the result of a hidden dark history surrounding the Munchkin actors. Over the years, the Hanging Munchkin became an urban legend, whispered about by fans of the film, who believed that the ghost of the actor still lingered, forever trapped in the frames of the movie. However, Snopes.com debunked the legend, tracing the figure to a much more mundane origin. Instead of a suicide, the mysterious shape was likely one of of several large birds that had been allowed to roam the set. The birds' wings, spread wide in the background, created the illusion of a hanging figure, a trick of the light and angle that fueled the myth. Despite the truth, the legend persists. Some still claim that when watching the film late at night, they catch a glimpse of the hanging munchkin, the shadow of a tragedy that never truly happened, but has haunted the film's legacy all the same. Darkness clung to the edges of the room, the shadows stretching and twisting into monstrous shapes. A young girl lay in her bed, the covers pulled tight around her, her heart pounding in her chest. The house was silent, save for the rhythmic creak of the floorboards and the rustling of leaves outside her window. A familiar sound reached her ears, a soft, wet lapping. She reached down, her hand dangling over the edge of the bed, expecting the comforting lick of her dog. A warm, wet tongue met her fingers, a sensation that sent a shiver down her spine. She smiled, reassured by the familiar presence of her furry companion. "Good boy," she whispered, pulling her hand back under the covers. The lapping continued, a rhythmic, almost hypnotic sound. She drifted off to sleep, lulled by the comforting darkness and the gentle rhythm of the licking. But in the deepest shadows of her room, a different kind of comfort lurked. A figure, silent and unseen, crouched beneath her bed, its eyes gleaming in the darkness. It was not a dog that had licked her hand, but something far more sinister. A creature of nightmare, its breath hot and rancid, its touch cold and clammy. Night after night, the ritual continued. The girl, lost in the innocence of sleep, offered her hand, and the creature beneath her bed accepted the offering, its tongue tracing the contours of her fingers. Each lick was a violation, a silent promise of the horrors to come. Then, one night, the girl awoke, a scream trapped in her throat. The lapping had stopped, replaced by a heavy, uneven breathing. She lay frozen, her heart pounding in her chest, her eyes wide with terror. She reached down, her hand trembling, and felt not the familiar fur of her dog, but something cold, smooth, and undeniably human. Let's journey into the mysterious world of the Boo Hags, a spine-chilling urban legend from the Gullah culture. Relax, These skinless, vampire-like witches are said to be evil souls who remain in the mortal world after death, seeking out the living to continue their existence. Unlike traditional vampires, boo hags don't drain their victims of blood. Instead, they feed off their breath, leaving their prey exhausted and lifeless. According to the legend, boo hags are born from wicked souls who fail to move on to the afterlife. Without their skin, they appear grotesque, raw, red and sinewy, making it impossible for them to blend in with the living. To navigate the human world, boo hags steal the skin of their victims, slipping it on like a disguise. Once they've taken someone's skin, they go out into the night to ride. This is a term used to describe their haunting behaviour, where they visit the homes of unsuspecting victims and take control of their bodies while they sleep. The process begins when a boo hag silently enters a home, usually through cracks or open windows, as they are believed to be capable of squeezing through the smallest of spaces. Once inside, they sit on the chest of their sleeping target, feeding on their breath and life energy. As the boo hag drains its victim, the person will experience intense nightmares, leaving them physically weakened by morning. While the boo hag feeds, the victim is paralysed, unable to move or wake. By dawn, the witch leaves its victim, slipping away before anyone realises what happened. However, boo hags have a weakness. They must return the skin they've stolen before sunrise, or they will be exposed and destroyed by daylight. If caught without their skin, they are vulnerable and can be easily defeated. To protect themselves, people in Gullah communities often took precautions to ward off these sinister beings. One method involved placing a broom by the door or scattering rice on the floor, as boo hags are said to be compelled to count small objects. If a boo hag becomes distracted by counting, it won't have enough time to finish before the sun rises, forcing it to retreat to avoid being caught. Another common belief is that painting windowsills and doors blue, a colour thought to repel evil spirits, can keep boo hags from entering a home. The colour, known as haint blue, is a staple in many Gullah households, used to protect against a range of supernatural threats, including boo hags. Those unlucky enough to fall victim to a boo hag may wake up feeling completely drained, as if they've run a marathon in their sleep. The exhaustion is a telltale sign that a boo hag visited during the night. If a boo hag becomes particularly attached to a victim, they may return night after night, eventually leading to the victim's death through sheer exhaustion and depletion of life energy. The boo hag legend is a chilling reminder of the dangers lurking in the shadows of the night. It warns people to be cautious, vigilant, and to protect themselves against malevolent spirits that may be waiting to take their skin for a deadly ride. The story continues to be passed down through generations. Hidden within the eerie expanse of Maple Hill Park in Huntsville, Alabama, lies a playground that few dare to visit after dark. Known as the Dead Children's Playground, it sits in the shadow of Maple Hill Cemetery, where countless lives were lost during the brutal Spanish flu pandemic of 1918. Many of these were children, tiny lives cut short by the merciless wave of illness that swept through the town. Their graves, small and silent, line the edges of the cemetery, just steps away from the playground, where swings now creak and echo through the night. As dusk falls, a haunting atmosphere descends upon the playground. Locals warn that the children who perished here never truly left. Strange occurrences have been reported for years. Swings move on their own, the rusted chains rattling as if gripped by invisible hands. In the sand beneath the slide, visitors find tiny footprints that appear suddenly unsettling breeze that seems to chill the very air around it. Witnesses describe seeing shadowy figures darting between the playground equipment, flickering in and out of sight like fading memories. A few brave souls have even claimed to catch glimpses of ghostly children, their pale forms just visible in the moonlight, with hollow, haunting eyes fixed on the swings. Others report feeling an icy touch on their shoulders or a tug at their clothing, as if tiny hands were reaching out, desperate to play just once more. Despite the renovations and new equipment, the playground remains a place haunted by sorrow and loss, as if the spirits of the past refuse to let go. It's said that the restless souls of these children are bound to this place, forever drawn to the playground. They never had the chance to truly enjoy in life. Visitors leave trinkets, small toys and flowers by the swings, hoping to soothe the spirits that linger. For those who know the tale, the Dead Children's Playground is not merely a place for children's laughter, but a portal to something darker. A reminder that some places are scarred by history, with memories and spirits that will not fade, even as time moves on. In the shadowed annals of maritime lore lies the chilling tale of the floating coffin of Charles Coghlan, a legend as haunting as the sea that carried it. Charles Coghlan, a celebrated actor born on Prince Edward Island, Canada, met his end far from home on November the 27th, 1899, in Galveston, Texas. His body was interred in a stately vault in Lakeview Cemetery, where it was thought to rest in peace. But the sea had other plans. The following year, in September 1900, the infamous Galveston hurricane struck with apocalyptic fury. Winds howled like banshees, and the surging waves claimed thousands of lives, including the dead already buried in the earth. Among the storm's grisly victims was Coghlan's coffin, torn from its resting place and cast into the raging Gulf waters. For years nothing was heard of the coffin's fate until a tale began to emerge. One whispered with disbelief and dread. According to legend, the coffin, guided by some unseen hand, or perhaps by Coghlan's unfulfilled yearning for home, drifted through the Gulf of Mexico, up the Atlantic coast, and across the icy waters, eventually washing ashore on the rugged shores of Prince Edward Island. There, it was said, his remains were laid to rest at last in the land of his birth, completing a ghostly journey of thousands of miles. Though modern accounts debunk the fantastical end of the legend, claiming his coffin was discovered in 1907, partially submerged in a marsh just 9 miles from Galveston, the eerie myth endures. Ripley's Believe It or Not immortalised the story in 1929, solidifying its place in folklore. Even now, the tale of Charles Coghlan's floating coffin remains a ghostly reminder of nature's wrath and the strange forces that seem to guide the dead. Whispers linger of his spirit still haunting the restless seas, a man forever tethered to the tides that carried him home. In the late 1960s and early 1970s, Highgate Cemetery in London became the epicentre of a terrifying and unsettling media frenzy, a frenzy that would give birth to one of the most chilling urban legends of the 20th century, the Highgate Vampire. The cemetery, known for its Gothic architecture and crumbling tombstones, had always been a place of mystery, But it was the rumours that swirled around it during this time that would send a chill through the city. It began with strange sightings. People reported seeing a tall, shadowy figure with piercing red eyes lurking among the tombs, moving with unnatural speed and disappearing into the darkness. A local woman claimed to have seen a man with pale, lifeless skin standing by a crypt, his eyes fixed on her with an intensity that sent her running in fear. Others spoke of an overwhelming sense of dread that would wash over them whenever they entered the cemetery at night, as if something or someone was watching from the shadows. The stories quickly escalated, and soon rumours spread of a vampire living in the heart of Highgate Cemetery. Witnesses claimed to have seen the vampire rise from its grave, its eyes glowing with hunger, as it stalked the grounds in search of blood. Some even reported hearing strange sounds in the night, howls, whispers, and the unmistakable sound of footsteps in the graveyard silence. The sensation reached its peak when a group of amateur vampire hunters, led by David Farron and Sean Manchester, set out to confront the creature. They claimed to have performed rituals to exorcise the vampire, but the truth remained elusive. Many who ventured into the cemetery never returned, and those who did spoke only of an overwhelming darkness that seemed to close in around them. To this day, Highgate Cemetery remains a place of eerie quiet and suspicion. The legend of the Highgate vampire continues to haunt the minds of those who dare to visit, and the truth behind the sightings remains buried in the shadows, where no one dares to look too closely. In the shadow-laden landscape of American folklore, few tales evoke the chill of the Crybaby Bridge. Across the United States, numerous bridges bear this macabre nickname, each story rooted in a haunting event so sorrowful that the echoes seem to transcend time itself. These structures, often decrepit and isolated, are united by the eerie phenomenon of phantom infant wails that pierce the stillness of the night. One such bridge looms on the outskirts of a small, weathered town, cloaked in the thick mists that rise from the river below. Local legend has it that many decades ago, a young mother, driven by despair and madness, threw her newborn child from the bridge into the icy waters beneath. They say she was consumed by grief and torment over her deed, and that her wails mingled with those of her child in a symphony of anguish. Overcome by remorse, she leapt to her own death, hoping in vain to join her child in the depths. Since that fateful night, those who dare to walk the bridge after dark report hearing the harrowing sounds of a baby's cries, so real and so close that they turn in desperation, searching for the child they can never find. Some also hear the ghostly lament of the mother, a mournful wail that drifts across the river and settles like a cold shroud upon the hearts of the listeners. The Crybaby Bridge has become a rite of passage for the local youth, a test of courage or foolhardiness. Teenagers gather in hushed groups, their voices low, as they dare one another to cross the bridge at midnight. Armed only with flashlights that cast long, ominous shadows, they step onto the creaking wood, each plank groaning under the weight of the grim history it bears. As they reach the centre, where the river runs darkest, the cries begin. At first, a soft whimpering, it soon swells into a crescendo of screams, so visceral that many flee in terror, swearing Others speak of seeing a spectral figure of a woman, her gown flowing and pale in the moonlight, her arms reaching out for the child she will never hold again. Cameras and phones, intended to capture proof, inexplicably fail, leaving only the memories of those haunted by what they have experienced. The Crybaby Bridge serves as a stark reminder of the past's grip on the present, its story passed down through generations as a chilling warning. It is a place where the boundary between this world and the next is thin, where sorrow and tragedy are etched into the very landscape, and the cries of the lost are never far from earshot.